Good afternoon, investigators. Mike Evans and Casey Pine here with episode 275 of Spy Curious, the program that made me a really big deal in investigations, unlike Casey, who isn't, because this week, people, when I arrived in Sydney, I realised just what a big deal I actually was. I got to Sydney Airport and I was basically walking through the terminal and there was a big crowd there to meet me and they're all cheering and waving and really excited. And then all of a sudden, out of the arrival lounge opposite me came the Australian Olympic team and wrecked my high opinion of myself and left me feeling absolutely devastated that I'm not such a big deal after all. But here she is. Casey is a big deal. How are you, Case?
I'm well, thanks, Mike.
That's good. And Amber reckons you're a big deal, Casey. And what Amber doesn't know is you're going to be in Amber's hometown on Monday speaking at a conference, and Amber might sneak away from work just very quickly and say g'day, because Amber would love to meet you in person, I am sure. G'day, Jamie. How you going, mate? Casey's got a very good presentation from you today. Hi, Michelle. Great. Thanks for checking in. Great to see you. Amber's going to meet you at the airport like that crowd was cheering me. G'day, Nasreen. Great to see you. Hi, Michelle. I got halfway to saying hello and I lost you, Michelle. I do apologise. Thanks for checking in, people. It's really great to know that you're watching.
Good to see everyone here.
And g'day, Todd. Great to see you, mate. Thanks for saying hello. All right, so I've got a fair bit to get through, so I'm going to get through it as quickly as I possibly can. There's jobs everywhere this week and some questions this week. So one of the questions, this was a really interesting one, I thought, that a lot of people wonder about. And I always used to, about 34 years ago, I used to wonder about this too. I was wondering, if you're required to attend court, is this a cost to you as an independent contractor? How would you recover the cost? Da, da, da. What a great question. So you've put your heart and soul into an investigation. You've sent them an invoice, your client, an invoice for $1,700 for that investigation, and nothing's happened. That's it. You never hear. You don't know. They sign a confidentiality agreement, get together, talk it out, try and save the cost of going to court, and that's what happens. You'll never ever find out. It's probably the biggest disappointment in our industry is 97% of cases, the two parties that you're involved in investigating on behalf of one, they will sign a confidentiality agreement and you'll never know the outcome, ever. And the only way I ever heard outcomes of my investigations, unless I stayed in court, and I don't have 3 or 4 days to wait in court to find out the outcome, unless I stayed after giving my evidence and cross-examination and re-examination. Basically, I read it in the newspaper if it got there. And, there was a $1 million claim and the lady actually got her $1 million claim. And I'm glad she did. She really deserved it. So did I get paid for going to court? No, I didn't. It was an expectation that I didn't get paid in those circumstances. Now, you can be summoned to court as a witness by the other side. And this person who's appeared on this program, here he is in court, waiting to go in after he was summoned on Friday afternoon to appear on Monday morning at the Gold Coast. Do you know that person, Casey? At the Gold Coast Court.
Oh, I hope he tucked his shirt in.
He's waiting to go into court. He's got to sit outside and wait till he's called to give his evidence. He was told on Friday night to be there Monday morning. He was handed a summons on his doorstep by a person delivering that summons, and in that summons there was a cheque for $140 by the side that wanted him to appear in court on the next Monday. No notice, just be there. So there are various ways that it will happen, and it's non-negotiable. If you're required to be there as a witness, you go. And it's something, if you're going to start your own business and you think you're going to end up in court a heck of a lot, then you should factor that cost in.
Mhm.
Now, if you're not going to end up in court, as in insurance claims, the majority of the insurance claims you won't, because it'll go to the afgo or a similar commission, which are closed, and they don't call witnesses in at that point. Okay, and it's sorted out between the insurance company and the legal representatives of the claimant. So there are different factors that come into this. So no, generally you will not be going to be paid to go to court. It is an expectation. Will you be in court for 6 months? No, you won't. That's not going to happen. However, we had one lady who was a student of ours. She was in the witness box giving evidence in chief for 5 weeks in a trial in London. Now, this was a very serious matter. Millions and millions of dollars were at stake. At that time, she was a police constable, but she was also an accountant. And she had to explain complex accounting procedures and processes so the jury could understand. Now, as a police officer, of course, you've been paid to be there, so that's no big deal, but that's a criminal matter. In civil matters, it's an expectation that you'll be there and you will not be paid for it. No one profits economically from going to court except the lawyers and barristers, okay? Which is the reason I don't like them. So keep that in mind. So I thought that was a really good question to sort of kick today off. Let's have a look at some of the opportunities. Clarity. If you're looking for work at factual investigators, Queensland, Victoria, and New South Wales, Clarity Investigations want to hear from you. G'day, Matthew and everybody at Clarity. Great to see you. These guys down in Melbourne, they want to see you too. So get in touch with them. And Seeker Group in Melbourne are looking for factual investigators for workers' compensation as well. You can Google them on their website, but all these jobs you can see on our Australian Security Academy Facebook page. There it is. All you have to do is type in a search in Australia for Australian private investigator, corporate and government investigation jobs, and the jobs for the week will come up. Now, this week's jobs include, there's a couple from IBAC down in Victoria. Now, they're certificate for and government investigation jobs. They're not private investigator ones, but they are genuine jobs that our graduate students at the Australian Security Academy can apply for, and they are in Melbourne and Hobart. It's kind of weird that IBAC have a Hobart position, but issues around what IBAC investigate would extend to Hobart as well. As you saw here last week, or in Investigations Uni, Pinkertons are looking for investigators in New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria. If you're an Australian Security Academy graduate student and you understand about workers' compensation investigations and what to do in relation to factual investigations for them, Pinkertons want to talk to you. English Lake. And look at that quote up there in bold at the top by Mike Evans on this day, date and time. It says, the best investigation company I ever worked for, English Lake. Nobody's ever heard of it. Best investigation company Mike Evans ever worked for in 34 years. Now, that's a big claim. Single person investigation company. Some of the greatest investigators in Victoria were trained by Ray and came out of English Lake. Where is he? Here's Ray and me at the AISP meeting, and Ray doing what he does best, having a beer. It says up there, he is the universe's greatest investigator. And whenever Ray rang you up, in case you just got caught drinking coffee, whenever Ray rang you up, he'd say, it's Ray Dent, the world's greatest detective. And you just got to love that kind of approach to their work. So I think Ray's retired, someone else has taken it over. But if you're looking for a job, they're a great investigation agency with a great platform, English Lake. Don't go past them, get in touch with them. Now, people say to me, g'day Joe, great to see you, thanks for saying hello. People say to me, well, I apply for these jobs, they never get back to me. Chris, how you going, mate? Hope things are well in South Australia. They never get back to me. They don't answer.
Cheers, Chris.
I thought that'd wake you up, Chris. So why don't they get back to you? They're very busy, extremely busy. I'm so busy and Casey's so busy, we haven't got time to be here.
Yeah.
So these poor people who are running these investigation agencies are trying to balance 26 investigations they're currently doing. They have to be in the post tonight and out to their clients, as well as onboard new people and develop new talent. So it's a pressure industry. So if they're not getting back to you, they enjoy persistence. They want to know that you really want to work for them. So keep applying until they at least say, oh, you haven't got enough experience or whatever, right? But keep going. They respect that kind of persistence. Now, another question, we are coming to Casey in a minute. Another question I got asked this week was this one. I'm interested in completing the Certificate 3 in Investigative Services, hoping you can provide some information regarding recognition of prior learning. I completed a Bachelor's of Law 7 years ago and was wondering what credit would be given for completing that degree. I don't know. The Certificate 3 in Investigative Services, CPP 30619, is totally focused on insurance investigation. That's what it's for. It's not about being a lawyer. So if the units in your university degree match what's in the Certificate 3 about taking statements, conducting records of interview, gathering evidence, giving evidence, locating subjects, that sort of thing, yes, there would be recognition of prior learning available for it. But it's impossible to ask me or any other assessor of any other qualification in Australia, will I get RPL for this? If you provide a copy of it to your assessor for whatever you're seeking RPL for, yes, they can advise you accurately on it. But without any information other than I did it in 2017 and it was a Bachelor of Laws, it could have been a Bachelor of Laws Agriculture, Bachelor of Laws Accounting, Bachelor of Laws Insurance. Now that would be something, okay? So when you're seeking to know about this sort of thing, be prepared to provide extra information. At the Australian Security Academy, we do not conduct recognition of prior learning for anyone that's not enrolled. So if you're enrolled in it, yep, you get our full attention and we will look at any form of recognition of prior learning there. Casey, what have you got to show us this week?
I have a little tool which I find quite helpful because these things tend to come and go, especially these ones. I usually use Download Helper. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's Friday afternoon. I haven't finished my coffee yet. So when you are doing desktop investigations and you come across something like a reel on Instagram, this is specifically about reels, you want to be able to download that reel really easily. Download Helper, I use that a lot, but I just find it so hit and miss sometimes with the updates, and I'm not very good at keeping it updated, and I'm not very good at reading the long stuff that says you need this other plugin. And I'm like, it's all too hard. So with Reels, what I do is I use Snap Insta. So basically what you have to do is go to Snap Insta. The website is snapinsta.app, or you can just Google it and it'll come straight up. And you paste the link to the reel in there and it'll download it for you. So it's just really handy to be easily grab that video. So for an example, here is just a reel that was literally just on my feed, and to be able to get that link, you have to go to the little paper airplane down the bottom and make sure you copy link, and then you paste that link in there. And then it downloads a really nice copy of it, and there's no watermarks. So I'll just show you quickly.
Oh, look, a strawberry. Oh, look, a strawberry. I really like it.
So I feel like that's definitely me with my healthy eating as well. You start off all motivated and then slowly declines throughout the day. But that was a really nice, clean video, no watermarks, and it was exactly what I wanted. So Snap Insta is fantastic for grabbing reels. The other thing I wanted to talk about is that we got a really nice email from, am I allowed to say who it's from, Mike? I feel like I am. We got a really nice email from Jamie Penny, who is a student of ours who I'm sure you guys recognize the name, and he watches Spy Curious all the time, has been fantastic because he contributes, and there we go, Jamie's right there. So he's contributed over the years to Spy Curious, and he's a really dedicated, excited, and persistent investigator, which is what we love to see, because you know that these people will go far in their career. And he sent through this email, which I'm going to read virtually verbatim because I love what he wrote. And he said, "Are you a newly licensed investigator? Are you struggling to get a start without experience? Don't give up. I obtained my license in 2021. Being new and based in Ballarat, Victoria, it was hard to get started, as everyone only wanted experienced investigators. I sent application after application and still not successful. I was unable to find anyone local who would put the time in to conduct any training so that I could gain that experience. I then set myself up to just focus on process serving and gained quite a few lawyers, and today I have approximately 8 long-term lawyers that I conduct service for. During this time, I used this experience to gain skills in approaching people, working with a mix of different people, and providing a service with my name at a high level of professionalism." Oh, I just love that. During this time, I still had not given up on applying for investigator roles. I continued to apply for all positions and contacted firms directly. Getting knocked back is disappointing when you have goals and you want to get a start in a new career, but don't just give up. Persist, keep applying, get your name out there, and show that you're determined to learn and work. I now have a few firms I'm set up with for subcontract work and have gained a range of new skills and experience. If you're new to investigations, trying to get a start, and you're having no success, don't give up. Persist, show determination and a strong work ethic, and you'll make it a success. Jamie Penny. And it says underneath, "Success is found by determination. Giving up is not an option." And I love that. Thank you, Jamie, so much for putting that through. Investigations is just like any other business that you have, any other career. You have to work at it. We get a lot of people that come through that just expect everything to fall into their lap as soon as they're licensed. And there's not a single job on earth that works for you. Unless you are Prince Charles and you've been made king, then work's going to fall into your lap because you're now king. And that is the only job that's going to happen to you. So thank you so much, Jamie, for showing that, for sending that through. And I'm sure that there's a few people on here today who this will really resonate with, because I've heard that people are struggling to get surveillance work when they don't have any surveillance in experience. So investigations is a broad and interesting career, and there are other things that you can do in the meantime as well. Like Jamie said, process serving, there's desktop investigations. Get yourself on LinkedIn, network, see what you can do, see what other angle you can take. And as Jamie says, he worked on his professionalism and made a name for himself of providing a really high level of service. And that will make so much difference. So well done, Jamie. And thank you for sending that through.
Good on you, Jamie, mate. Thanks for sending that through. Look, you've been a great supporter of the Australian Security Academy, and you've had an enthusiastic approach to your own success in this area. And you create your own luck, you create your own success, and you'll find what will happen is the people that you're doing process serving for will recommend you to other people, and then one day someone will say, "Oh, I've got this general insurance or this CTP or whatever job or workers' compensation," and it goes like that. Once you're in, you're in. And I think, and I don't think, I'm absolutely certain, come this time next year, you know what Jamie's biggest problem is going to be, people? He's going to have too much work. Something to look forward to, and we'll keep you up to date on that because that's the way it's heading. So good on you, Jamie. That's great to see, mate. Very well put. You're an absolute wordsmith. So, and thanks, Casey. Thanks for putting that through. Oh, Michelle's got a question on this,
Yeah.
Casey.
So there is, by the same company, they have what's called Snap Tik, and it's worked for me in the past. I've used it and it's worked. I don't know if it's still working. I just checked the website. I'll bring it up for you. So it's still operational, but I haven't tested it in a few months. And just with this, with these tools, you just never know if they're still going to work or not. So I'll just bring it up for you so you can give it a go. So Snap Tik, which is by the exact same company. So it's free. And the reason it's free is because they have a hell of a lot of Google ads. So there's a lot of pop-ups that pop up, which you have to navigate and just X out of. Don't accidentally click on them. Not that it really matters. I'm being remarketed rugs because I've been looking at rugs. So it's just the Google Ads network. It's nothing nefarious there. But yeah, give it a shot. And yeah, hopefully that works still. I'm sure it will. It did work last time I used it, and it's by the same company that do Snap Insta.
Fantastic. So now everyone's cringing because they know I'm going to be downloading stuff, private investigator stuff, and putting it in here in TikTok and Instagram for the next 6 months. So in the news this week is a really interesting one. This is great. No, I've got to find the headline. So Max Samuel Bennett Turbot, which should have to be name of the week, he has, and a couple of sheriff's deputies have been charged with a $37 million extortion this week in America. Now, what's happened? Max is an ex-British soldier, and in the company of an ex-Australian soldier, they took on a job for $420,000 to go and do a debt collection in California on behalf of a Chinese client. They got the money, but what they did, they roped in a couple of ex-Californian police officers or sheriffs who did a search on the police database to locate the victim. And the two ex-police officers and Max and his Australian accomplice basically raided the property early one morning, roughed up the person that owed the debt, threatened their children, threatened them with deportation back to China, and basically made them sign a document, and their client got their money back. And within a couple of days, all the conspirators had been arrested. They've been probably sitting in jail in California since that time, 2019, and the case has come to court this week. We spoke about this in kidnapping in this program a couple of weeks ago. I don't know where it comes from. It's a real British Army or British police thing. I don't know what it's all about, but people think you can waltz into another country, snatch children and bring them back, and the children aren't going to want to go to the toilet, or they're going to be happy to miss their mother, or they're not going to want to eat anything, and you're going to get all this money and everything's going to... It's not. Right? You want to play in other countries' playgrounds, you play by their rules. And as I told you, kidnapping over there is it's 15 years in jail. Now, they didn't kidnap anyone. They're facing 30 years in jail. And in America, when you get sentenced to 30 years, you do it. Over here, you get sentenced to 30 years, you probably do 6 months, holiday, and you're out and you're at it again, right? But in America, they're serious about it. And that's what these people, they looked at, we're going to get $420,000. We'll rope these other people in. We'll be in and out. No. I don't know why people think like that. Now, Max was an Australian private investigator at the time. His accomplice was a security risk manager. You can read all about it. They accessed the sheriff's database, which we keep saying here, don't do it. Do not do that. Don't go into police databases. You're going to lose your job in Australia. Okay, now they did it to commit an extortion, right? And they pretended they were police when they raided these people in California. And you can Google Max Turbot and all about him. He's listed on the internet. It's fairly old. He's been abandoned by companies that he was associated with in the past. Not that one. So that's really big news this week. If you are ever asked to go overseas and do anything, speak to some of the ex-Australian police that do it for real and know what they're doing. Don't go and do what these guys just assumed, that they could get away with that sort of thing over in a different country. Now, this is the one we spoke about this or alluded to it last week in our social networking. Michael Roberts on LinkedIn. He's the person that's got the reverse image search. Now, to do one search, it costs $14, right? If your matter is serious enough that you need a reverse image search that's pretty thorough and pretty deep, Michael Roberts on LinkedIn. Jump on LinkedIn, type in Michael Roberts and Anna Brown. Okay? They do this sort of thing. Have a look at what they've got. Now, there's no free trial, anything like that. Just have a look at it. If you really need it, it's there. And it's growing and growing now. Michael and Anna have been associates of ours for many years now. And Anna's in Australia, Michael's in Europe. But have a look for Michael Roberts on LinkedIn. It's a very interesting read. AFP are seeing sovereign citizens and the threat from them rising in Australia. Last week on LinkedIn, one of our graduates, a lawyer, was talking about how he represented a police officer who pulled over a person in Victoria who started spouting off about being a sovereign citizen and the cops had no right to stop him. And then he complained to the police and the police officer was dragged through the system in the police protocols and charged with all sorts of things that didn't happen. And only last week he was exonerated, that police officer, after the fuss kicked up by that sovereign citizen. We teach in our programs at the Australian Security Academy, particularly in Certificate for and Government Investigation, about dealing with sovereign citizens and what to do and people's experience with it in enforcing regulatory compliance. Because one of the things that they do, and it never used to happen with the Hutt River province and things like that. It's just something that sort of really started. They've got their own property, it might be a farm, they declare it another country or whatever they do, and they will accept nuclear waste or other forms of chemical waste onto their property. That's how they earn income. Now, there might be a river flowing through that property and it poisons the water on every farm for the next 300 miles downstream, but they think they can get away with it because they're sovereign citizens and they don't have to pay tax and they don't have to comply with the EPA rules. So that's something that's sort of been in the news this week. Sovereign citizens. Yeah.
No, don't put that up. It's a scam.
All right. Oh, this is a good one. Our friends at Risky Business, they've got the new aerials to the emergency services fitted onto their vehicles, and you can read about it on LinkedIn. Now, there you can see the two aerials on the vehicles, and basically they were driving through Sydney to test them out, and a pedestrian walked out in front of them. So they hit the brakes, and the pedestrian got belted by the two aerials as they whiplashed, and it knocked him over. The ambulance was almost there immediately because these are emergency service vehicles. They're all connected. And the ambulance is there and the guys from Risky Business and the girls were standing over the top of them and they were watching going on. And the ambulance driver looked up at the Risky Business drivers and said, "Gee, this is terrible." They said, "Why?" He said, "Because this is the worst case of van aerial disease we've ever seen." Katie just smiled.
Oh, dear.
Don't tell me Risky Business shouldn't have put it up there. Down in AFLW in Melbourne in Victoria, a player that's been found guilty of domestic violence issues has been offered a job by another team, and the female players in the league have quite rightly kicked up a really big fuss about it. Quite rightly, because it's been secret talks behind closed doors. He's been given a second chance by another club. "Oh, I won't do it again," whatever. It doesn't do a good image for the LW, that doesn't send the right message to the AFL and the player involved. So that's hit the news down there this week in Victoria. IBAC have created a really big fuss about Operation Persis down there, and 2 Victorian Building Authority inspectors who they claim have been accepting bribes in the Victorian State Government. Now, IBAC have got involved. Now, if you've watched the last 5 episodes of Spy Curious that you're watching now, okay, you'll see that that's happened in the VWA in Victoria. And that hasn't been investigated by IBAC at all. And one of the comments underneath this matter being raised on LinkedIn was it took to get to the national news before the Victorian State Government and IBAC would actually do anything about it. Now, that was really interesting. So IBAC must get the go-ahead for their jobs that they pick and choose from what's on the news, not what's relevant to their remit as the overseer of the public service in Victoria. So the VWA get away with it, but the VBA don't. I tell you what, it's a pretty selective process down there. In New South Wales, there was a building inspector fell through a hole in an upper story level of a building, and the firm was fined a large amount of money in New South Wales. This was last week. Sorry, I'm a week behind with these now at the moment. So that was an interesting one. As an investigator for home construction, general insurance, that sort of thing, you'll get a lot of those. People that are there to inspect the electricity or the plumbing or the building construction or whatever, or union official, they're so busy looking at what they're doing, and there's an uncovered void where the stairs are supposed to be, and they fall through it and injure themselves. It's a very, very common injury. So that's happened in New South Wales last week. And as reported last week in Investigations Uni, Zurich Insurance have stopped blanket coverage for all AFL players as a result of 3 players receiving really big payouts in relation to it. So these players have been awarded massive payouts for their concussion injuries, which have been long-term, not mid-term. So that's happened down, and Zurich had pulled the plug on insuring those professional sports people. That would have a ongoing effect into the NRL and other similar places. They have to be looking for another insurance company to cover them for that. And I tell you what, it's not going to be cheap. I didn't get a chance to have the picture of it, but 2 years ago, we reported on this program that a ship in Devonport for Goliath Cement, owned by Goliath Cement, crashed into 2 boats, and we showed the video of it actually happening. In court last week, the Devonport Port authorities claimed for $37 million for damage, salvage and reconstruction, and for the stopping of the pollution from the diesel fuel and other chemicals. Their claim for $37 million was knocked back by the court. And the court said this goes back to 1740 and maritime shipping and the costs of it and stuff like that. So it was an interesting thing. If you want right into your past law and your case law, then Google the Devonport Port Authority and the court outcome for the Goliath Cement. That's not finalised, but they've had that initial claim knocked back. Now, I think that claim was forever going to be it was going to be 70 million more than that, because that's not all of it. There's a lot more to come. But just how much they can actually get back is going to be interesting based on that judge's call in that matter. People, that's our program for this week. That's
I've got one more piece of news.
Casey's got one more. Here's Casey.
This is going to come with a trigger warning because, I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock not to have heard the news this week, but there is a trigger warning as it has to do with the 10-year-old girl that lost her life this week, allegedly to her mother. And I just wanted to point out that this is a murder trial and they're still looking at TikTok content. So desktop investigations are on the rise, and they're going to get more and more and more as we move more and more online. I'll just bring up the headline. Did you change the overlays?
Yeah, I changed the overlay. Where do you want to be?
Can you go back to where it was? Yeah, perfect. So chilling TikTok videos emerge after Gold Coast mum charged with daughter's murder. So they had the mother, pretty sure they're quite sure that she did it. I'm not sure how the court case is going, but they still do digital investigations, because digital investigations is something that helps paint the picture. It's a piece of the puzzle that goes towards a case, whether it's civil or criminal. So desktop investigations are really, really important, and it's such an up and coming and emerging way to do investigations. So if that's something you want to do, I highly recommend it. It's interesting and you get to paint that picture. So yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting piece.
Very confronting murder on the Gold Coast this week. It's alleged that the child's mother did it. It's also alleged that she'll never be charged with actually the murder because of the state of mind and her mental state of mind at the time. It was very confronting for the first responders to have to go there, find the young girl in the state she was, deal with the father who came home. The mother wasn't there at the time, she'd gone somewhere else, but very confronting. And one police officer said after 15 years of going to murder scenes, this was the most confronting one that he had ever seen, and he'd seen some beauties, I'm sure. So it was a very sad news, very awful news for that to happen on the Gold Coast. But certainly that happened this week. Rainy and wet in southern Tasmania, people. Thanks for checking in, Jack. It's all right, mate, to be late. Replay this and you'll see all my funny jokes that you missed. Casey's just was side splitting over my two funny jokes today. So make sure you watch the replay, Jack. It'll cheer you up. People, we'll be back next week with episode 276 of Spy Curious. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the questions. Thanks, Jamie. That was inspirational, mate. Great to see. Thanks for your questions and your participation, people. See you next week.